Oh yeah.
What's going on, you socially distant people? My name's Timmy Joe, making videos about computer parts all up on the internet. Today on the program, world's cheapest 2080 Ti. Bought it for 1,100 Canadian on the old eBay, and it came with a blower on it that blew. And I actually ended up getting $300 back Canadian. So I got this for about $800 Canadian or $640 USD. 2080 Ti, so definitely the cheapest I've ever seen anyone talk about. But I mean, does it look that great right now? Definitely not. Put the blower back on it, that doesn't look so good either. I have a solution, which we'll talk about right about after we talk about our sponsor for today, because you need something to do while you're socially distancing yourself, and why wouldn't you play the free amazing battleship game World of Warships? Command some of history's most iconic war vessels and dominate the seas. More than 300 ships. Got carriers, cruisers, battleships. They got everything, destroyers. The game looks incredible. It has life-like physics and weather. It's pretty damn cool. Explosions, screens, but smoke screens, penetrating bullets. I mean, I played it. It's a lot of fun. And you could go down in the comments and use that link to head over and use the code ready for, with a 4, like a number 4, battle, ready for battle 2020. By doing that, you will get these things: 700 doubloons, 1 million credits. You get a 7-day premium account, and you get the free USS Charleston with all of its beautiful stars and stripes camo on it, and a Japanese Shizaki. I hope I said that right. A ship as well. So get all this stuff. Links are in the description. Go play this while you've got time to. Lots of time to go play computer games and just get immersed into, yeah, thanks to World Warships for sponsoring this video and helping the channel out in such dire times. So, this guy here, a little ugly, and I've never been a fan. They made these Acceleros like 10 years ago, I think, maybe 8 years ago. And questionable aesthetics on them. They don't look great. I mean, they're universal GPU coolers, and especially if you got this thing on the back, which you definitely need. It's supposed to transfer the heat out of it. It's cumbersome. It doesn't fit in a lot of situations you'd hope it would, and it can be annoying. It's really heavy. Don't get me wrong, it's a great cooling solution, but what if you buy a blower model card, and like, I've even got another one here. 2080, I got GTX or RTX 2080 right here. Got it for 550 Canadian. So what, like 400 USD? When you pick these deals up, it's usually because people are just tired of the blower on them. Now I got this one from a guy I've bought a few computer parts over the years, I should say, and he knows who I am, so I think he gave me an extra good deal on this. He had a list for 600 bucks, and I beat him up to 550. So I might do something with this later, but it's actually a lot better than the 2080 Ti's cooler. Like, I thought about swapping them over maybe, but it says GeForce RTX 2080, not Ti on it. This one just has RTX. So yeah, so what I'm going to do today is all the way from China. I know, right? I'm a badass. I live on the edge. I ordered this. This is a 2080 Ti Amp Edition cooler, and what's very important is someone obviously water-cooled their system and was planning on leaving it that way. They sold this for $59 USD with free shipping, and I wound up getting it for like $85 Canadian, which isn't a bad deal considering I only paid $800 for this card Canadian. So if you kind of tally things up, I'm going to pay about $880 if I put this cooler on it, and I turn it into a much more viable solution. I mean, it's a Zotac Amp Edition. It's a little bit dirty, but this is a proper cooler that will fit on this and make it look right. And then it didn't come with a back plate, but I do have the original back plate that came with the blower on this, and it's just a black back plate, and no one's going to be the wiser. I thought about maybe switching it over for the 2080s back plate because it looks a little cooler. I think I'll leave this one alone. I think this card actually, as it is still worth quite a, more than I paid for it, even without altering it or anything like that. Pretty nice card. I'm going to save this probably for if someone commissions a build from me. I build a lot of computers for people, and they're looking for a really high-end graphics card. A lot of people don't know or care what blowers are and stuff like that. But this thing here will, first of all, make this a lot less cumbersome. And I think it'll just be an all-around better experience. Now, I do have to take this apart, and there are some issues what we will get into having to do with how the fans hook up. They hook up sort of the same way because NVIDIA switched to this whole weird system on the side of their PCB here. I'll show a picture of it, where they get lighting and fan distribution off of a completely new header style. And unfortunately, this guy here, it's not soldered in. Although it's there, it's not soldered in. So I can't technically use that hookup if I was using, let's say, a Founders Edition cooler. I've been looking for a cooler on eBay for a while for the right price. It was always seeming like I was going to spend way over $100, and finally when this one popped up and it was an actual eBay listing, like I actually won the bid on this at $59 USD, I was like, let's jump all over it. We'll also have some issues with this thing doesn't come with any sort of lighting. So there's no hookup for lighting on there, where this thing definitely has an RGB illuminated little Zotac logo there, which, would be fine if I could maybe Jimmy rig something, but it actually comes off of that separate connector, which is not soldered on this. So what I have an idea is I have a white LED here, and it plugs in with 2 wires, probably 5 volts from a SATA connector. I don't know if I can somehow find 5 volts or whatever this is going to require on this and then solder something. That sounds kind of sketchy. What I might actually end up doing is wiring this in or just setting it up. So there's a white LED in that Zotac logo, so it looks somewhat legit. And maybe you do have to run it to a fan header or to a SATA cable. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. And then the last thing is this Zotac Amp Edition has actually 2 different fan headers, because I believe it'll actually run only the middle fan or something like that, or maybe the first fan under like very low loads, and it has like multi-stage fan, whatever. That doesn't matter. We don't need to worry about that. I'm going to figure out a way to bridge these 2 connections so the card just treats this as a normal GPU. It doesn't need the special fan stop thing. As long as it's, we can get PWM control to it, it should be fine. So I've got this. I've disinfected the crap out of it because, like I said, it came right from China, and I got it for a pretty damn good deal. And it came with this mid plate, which is very important because this is going to give us our VRM cooling, and it's got great memory cooling, it looks like, because look how big that plate is there. So it's going to take me a while to figure out how to get this all together. I'm expecting maybe not see, because the cooler on this is very good, not see any temperature improvements. They're very similar coolers. They're both 5 heat pipe coolers with a bunch of fins on them. What this is just going to do is it's going to change the aesthetic and actually give direct VRM and memory cooling, properly to the underside of this card, so we don't have to use this big giant Accelero heatsink. And we should get a much smaller, more confined package that looks more believably like a 2080 Ti. And the only thing that's going to give it away is the green PCB if you're really looking. So let's get to doing this. Let's put this all together. It should be a load of fun. And yeah, I don't know, I'm going to turn this camera on up here. Bye! Yeah, we're going to turn this camera on. We're going to Timmy rig some things together. It should be a load of fun, so follow along for the ride while you're sequestered. And go play World of Warships or something if you want. Links in the description. So I've been playing around with this. I've been trying to look up specs for where I could get a 5 volt supply, because everything is 12 volt and the fans are going to be 12 volt, and I don't want to power them this light with the fans, because then it will pulse as the fans get, go up and down. But the LED I have is rated for 5 watts. So what's going to happen if I hook it up to a 12-volt source and the fan starts spinning like crazy? It's going to pop the LED, and then what's the point of using the mod? So scrap that. I'm going to put it back together the way it is, but this isn't an ARGB controlled light. It's got one solid color, and it's got 4 different wires coming off of it: a blue, a green, a red, and a black. And what is that standard as well? The RGB standard, not the ARGB standard, but the 4-pin that you plug into your motherboard. So I am going to go ahead and hook this light up to this cable, the female that will plug into your motherboard cable, and I'm going to see if I wire up the appropriate wires, if I can get lights coming off of a motherboard. And then it won't be the most ideal solution. There will be a wire hanging out of the graphics card that you have to route and hide, but it will give you the ability to control the light. It will light the light up if you want it, and if you don't, you could always just hide the wire in the back of your case. I don't know, that's the best thing I can come up with. There's no way for me to actually use the signals and stuff this isn't the Zotac card. It won't have the exact situation needed, even though I got this little board with it to go ahead and make the lights light up on this thing. So a little bit ghetto of a solution, but I'm gonna see if I can't make it work. And then, worst case scenario, I just don't put a light in it, and that's kind of sad, but whatever, we'll figure it out. So you see here, I've got my wires, and I've got it wired up red, green, blue based on the wire color on this little LED panel. Plug it into this PC, and hopefully it doesn't explode. That's what I'm hoping. Anyways. Oh, we got lights! We got orange lights! Yeah, baby! Whoa, okay, we're all done. It's been a day or so, and I've done some testing, and this worked out incredibly well. So, in case my montages there didn't really explain things, I did use the original LED. We see it's glowing blue, and how you get the information and power to it to illuminate it is you have to plug it into a 4-pin header on your motherboard, and there is a big long cable, as we'll see in a second, hanging off the graphics card. But I hid it in the case, and no one's going to be the wiser. And I use this for a lot of GPU or CPU testing and stuff like that. So I'm going to probably just wrap that cable up and hide it every, whatever, stick it in there, it's all good. It fits perfectly, had no issues with fitment because it is, after all, the exact same reference PCB. And then one last thing, there was a requirement for 2 fan headers. One powers the first 2 fans, I found out, and then the second one, I guess, will kick the 3rd fan on if it starts getting hot enough. I just wound up soldering the first and 3rd fan together, and then the middle one is where it gets the PWM signal, and all the fans are spinning, and you could probably hear it's not too loud at all, and we're running overclocked right now. Look at this, temperatures are amazing, super amazing. So I could have compared it to the Accelero's. The GPU temperature would have been probably pretty close to the Accelero's thermal output and stuff like that, but what's wrong is NVIDIA cards, they don't have like VRM temperature sensors, memory temperature sensors, so it's really hard for me to gauge how bad that Accelero was, having that weird back heatsink, having to spread the heat through the PCB into that back heatsink, where this thing has a real mid plate and some concentrated air from some pretty decent fans blowing on it. And you know how I can test it though? Well, we'll see here. I'm running at 69 degrees here.
overclocked to almost 2 gigahertz. If you had a different load on this, it does go over 2 gigahertz at this overclock. We got a 180 plus on the core clock, 600 on the memory, and it's absolutely super stable. And one of the reasons why I know it is so stable, well, I did some overclocking last night. I mean, if I watch this, I'll go ahead and turn this fan up. It can get pretty loud if you want it to. It's hovering at around 30% at load. Well, I can put it up to 80% and get some serious air. We see some dramatic drops in the temperatures. That will allow me to get some really, like a lot better overclocks than I've ever gotten with this card. And yes, I did. I did very well. Last night I did Fire Strike runs and Time Spy, and let's check them out. So that's the highest score I've ever gotten with the 9900K in Time Spy. 15,521 on the graphics score. That is like 500 points better than I ever did with the Accelero. Then if we go over to Fire Strike, I broke 30,000 total points with an 8-core processor. That's pretty damn good. And my graphics score, 38,413. And if you look at the footage from last night, we see here the temperatures never go anywhere because I had the blower, or like the fans up on like 80%, but it was like 60 degrees doing these overclocks. So super good stuff. So here, I'll just go ahead and shut things off here. But, I mean, look at how this ends up in the end. Oh my god, is it ever warm. I put the back plate on from the 2080, this one here. I swapped the back plates because I thought that the one with the cutouts would look better, but it ends up just showing more of the green PCB, so I should have probably just left this solid one on there, but it actually worked out a little bit better with a few of the screws, locations and stuff with this back plate. But there is the green back. Here's that hanging 4-pin RGB cable that you're going to have to deal with, but I think I could easily sell this and just say, you know, the light doesn't work. I'm actually also thinking maybe I should go ahead and swap the BIOS on this to an Amp Edition's BIOS. That way it would look like an Amp Edition, you know, if when you plug it in the computer, in case I ever want to sell it again. A little bit, you know, being a jerk. Is that, you know, being, you know, mistreating people if I change this to an Amp BIOS and then sell it as an Amp? Probably, but I don't know if I would really ever even sell this thing. I don't think I'm going to, but it really worked out well. I'm getting the best overclocks I've ever gotten on this. The only real, you know, thing that shows this not being proper Amp Edition is the green PCB and this wire hanging out the back of it. But I'm extremely happy with how this turned out. So for $880, or about, let's say, 600 American dollars, 650 we'll say, I went ahead and got myself a 2080 Ti Amp Edition from Zotac. Has a really good cooler because I, you know, just buttoned this up and put fresh thermal paste on it. It's working completely optimally, and in the end, I mean, it is a little bit weird with the green PCB, but it works out really nice. So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter. Have you enjoyed this 2080 Ti series? And do you like where I ended up? I much prefer this cooler to the Accelero, even though I'm not the craziest on how this thing looks. I mean, it looks like every other GPU these days, like gigabyte cards that look like this. There's MSI cards. There's, you know, 3-fan models like this. You know, they don't really vary too much, but all in all, got a great performing card, really awesome cooler. Probably increase the value on the card when I go to resell it a little bit, and you know, I'll probably disclose what I did with it, but I don't think anyone's gonna care, you know, coming from me, a guy who knows what he's doing. I'm at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram, Twitter. You guys stay safe out there. You know, you gotta self whatever and do things and stuff. Well, come watch me mess with computer parts on YouTube while you're self-isolating. And I want to thank you very much. Thanks to World of Warships for sponsoring the video. I'll see you guys in another video. I'm going to plug this back in, and I'm going to get ready for, what, Doom Eternal tomorrow? Yes, please. And then Half-Life Alyx on Monday. It's going to be a good couple of weeks for video games, so I guess could be worse. I'll see you guys later.